Welcome everyone to Crush Cash Games. This is the episode 14. We're going to be playing some mid-stakes today. This video will be about 30 minutes long. If you haven't taken the time to subscribe to my channel, I would be very grateful for that. The first spot that we get into is going to be at the bottom right table with our queen tray of hearts. In blind versus blind battles, that will happen as soon as the one seat folds. I like defending pretty light in position and just basically giving my opponent hell post flop. Put him in a lot of difficult spots. I think that on ace high boards especially, when players actually do flop an ace, they tend to not c-bet it a ton. So if we know that, that's the tendency of most people. When they do c-bet, what are they most likely to have? I would say they're going to be at the bottom of their range. They're going to have a lot of bluffs. So even when we don't have a hand like a flush draw, we can still go ahead and put in a raise. The top right table, pocket eights in the small blind. You could obviously 3-bet, but this player seems to be playing pretty snug. He's only raised 4% of his hands after 50. We're still going to peel because we feel as if he's going to be c-betting the majority of his range, and our eights do pretty well. If he bets again, then we're most likely just done with the hand. Just hoping to get to showdown. One thing that kind of hurt us on that hand too, and you never know who's using a HUD and who's not, but we haven't actually folded to a c-bet yet. So I feel like that makes it more likely to face multiple bets. But against this particular player, there's really nothing we can do. Opening 3x on the button with tens, that's a deviation from my standard 2x, and I happen to be paying attention and know that the small blind in this spot is playing way too passively and playing way too many hands. So when I'm facing an opponent like that, I'm probably just going to open 3x, or I'm going to try to open 3x as much as possible. Aces is a pretty good hand at the bottom left. Sort of interesting. A guy who hasn't limped once limps under the gun. Halfway expect to get limp raised, which would be nice because he would be trying to rep exactly what we have. Lo and behold, we do get limp raised. So do we 4-bet the limp raise or do we just call? We did 4-bet it. In hindsight, I much rather would have called. I think that we will flat in that situation with pocket pairs and a lot of hands that he thinks he can make us fold post flop. And I think he's probably going to fire off and go kind of nuts out of position. So we could have picked up 2 more bets had we opted to just flat the 3-bet. Kind of a wasted opportunity there. Flopping a set at the bottom left, another opportunity. Kind of a half pot size bet, which, as I've said in my other videos, doesn't mean a lot. And as you can tell, he just didn't have any equity, didn't call my check raise, was just on a stone cold bluff, basically. Something to learn from that you know, that little bitty encounter that even after raising pre, when we do check and somebody makes a small bet like that, they are still exploitable. That betting pattern is still exploitable, and we can take advantage of it, even though we're not technically repping very much. But if you think about it, with the Queen 4 of Hearts, what are we repping? Like, we called a raise from the big blind versus the small blind on like Ace 8-4. We can't have eights. We can have fours, I guess. We can have Ace 8 and Ace 4, but we're not repping very much. I guess we had Queen 4, so some other random card. The 4 seed at the bottom left looks like a whale playing way too many hands, playing them way too passively. 8-9 queen at the bottom right. Don't expect him to c-bet without something. I don't think that is a good opportunity to float, even with ace-jack, even blocking queen-jack and ace-queen, just simply because of his sizing. The fact that he's out of position on that particular board is an indicator to me that he's not going to give up just easily. We're going to have to put in multiple bets in order to take this down, and that's just not something that I generally try to do. If I'm going to float, then I want to be able to pick it up with a minimal investment later on. Peeling with a 7-8 at the top right is interesting. And the bottom right is interesting too. We turn to flush draw. Yeah, I think the river at the bottom right is going to just be a call. We're going to pick up the pot at the top right with a bet more often than not. But I'm not sure why I tanked it at the bottom right, other than the fact that I was in multiple hands. As it turns out, the small blind basically had a merge and beat us with ace high. I think it's a little silly. I'm not sure if he was merging on purpose or not, but I think he has a lot of showdown value, even with ace jack high, that he doesn't need to bet the river. He can check and pick off a lot of bluffs, considering I raised pre, check through the flop, and then called the turn. More often than not, I just have a flush draw that I'm not going to be able to call with. Going for the limp raise in the top right. We haven't been especially nuts. Only 3-bet 5% there. So we realize a little bit of equity and flop a set. It's important to bet out even when we flop a monster. We can't just check our entire range. We really need to be betting our value hands as well as our bluffs to remain balanced. Kind of an annoying turn card here, because I don't think he's gonna feel like we're gonna bet that turn card with just a complete airball that often, unless we're firing the river. So if we did pick up some sort of flush draw on the turn, we basically have to jam the river. With aces, jamming here with aces looks a little risky considering the board, so he might be suspicious enough to look us up with some one pair type hands, but he did end up folding. I am kind of curious as to what he had. Got the double gut shot at the bottom left. Taking a shot on this particular board texture with the double gut shot. Our ace is probably live as well. If he does just happen to be c-betting just random overcards or whatever, then we get him to fold. But if not, we still have pretty good equity. So it's not the end of the world if he does call. And we turn our straight, the dummy end. And now things are interesting. As you can tell, I'm as stumped now as I was when the hand actually happened. There's 2 bets left. We have the dummy into the straight. We're not going to get a ton of action from the over pairs. So I guess we're trying to induce some bluffs and call here and basically check call the river. I think this hand is pretty interesting and just a pretty tricky spot, because if he has a flush draw, is he going to go ahead and pile the river? I don't know the answer. If he's not going to pile the river with a flush draw, then we should just jam here. If he is going to pile the river, then we should not jam. Yeah, so that was not a very good turn of events. We didn't let him bluff the... Didn't give him a chance to bluff the river. I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking. I have to say that play was... it was a very confusing hand in general. And... I guess my thought process was that he's not going to be firing the river with his busted flush draws, and we were hoping to get called by some overpair or something. I'm not exactly sure. I don't love my play. I think looking back on it, the turn should just be a ship. Just ship the turn, make him call all in with his flush draws, and let that be that. I remember watching a friend of mine play a session when I was running really bad and didn't really know if I knew anything anymore, and he's awesome. He's an awesome player, and I just remember watching him play and thinking to myself that I noticed that he was making mistakes, and that was actually reassuring to me, knowing that he was crushing and making a lot of money, but yet he was still making mistakes that I could see. And I think it's a good lesson to know that we're all fallible. We all do things we wish we could take back, but we can't. We just have to try to do better in the future. isolating with queen jack off versus the whale at the bottom left. We should be isolating him pretty light. It doesn't appear as if the players behind us are going to be 3-betting us a ton. Whenever you're playing the isolating game versus a whale, that's something you always want to take into consideration. How often are the players behind me going to mess with me? And if the frequency is too high and we know we're being messed with, then that's when it gets to be fun and we get to throw in our 4-bets and kind of back them up. Really, we're just all fighting for the opportunity to play versus the fish with all of our shitty hands. At this depth, it looks pretty squeezy, the 1 seat 3-betting on the button. Although it is 4x, which, I mean, I guess in this spot 4x is okay because there's 2 of us. So well, we block kings, we block jacks. He could have flopped a set of 10s, but that's pretty rare. After firing our little shell on the flop, we're setting up blasting the turn or making another bet. This turn card in particular kind of seals it for us. We have a pot size bet left. It's really annoying, really hard for him to call with even a hand like queens is in a tough spot, and we have a double gutter with overcards. Our equity's not too terrible if we do get looked up by queens or something of that nature. We even have 8 outs against top set. And also, since we bet, you know, what did we bet on the flop? Like 35% of the pot. He may have felt the urge to peel kind of light, maybe even float us some. So I think our fold equity on the turn is very good. Didn't 3-bet the jacks. Probably should have, considering our 3-bet percent is way high. We just went crazy the hand before. Our image is super aggressive and jacks is at the top of our range. I don't really see the value in just flatting with them out of position. That's another mistake that I made. For those counting, that's 3 mistakes so far. And as you can see at the bottom right, we've only played 22 hands, but our stats are pretty wild. 36, 36, 9, 0. Not exactly brag-worthy stats. Again, with the flatting of the 10s on the button in position, this is a little different. We are in position with a dominating hand, and this guy's not raising pre very often. So if we do 3-bet the 10s, a lot of times he's just going to fold. And when he does 4-bet us, he has us crushed. Really interesting river. I would like to... Yeah, we're value betting for sure. And I guess it's a good thing that we didn't 3-bet him. We have a lot of it's really a weird spot for us to bet. We don't have a lot of sets. We don't have a lot of two pairs. We don't have a lot of value hands. So I actually feel like I should have bet more on the river because it looks bluffier. And I think we're going to get called pretty light. If he had a king, he probably just goes ahead and barrels the king. So really all we're losing to is queens and jacks. I like flooding the ace-9 in position, giving the 3-seat the opportunity to go ahead and do something silly. We get about the best turn card we could get, followed by the worst river card. It's really tricky when you're floating. So we had blockers for 9, 10, and ace 10. But it's really tricky because most people have caught on to the fact that people are floating them. People don't have very much. And the way they combat it is they fire multiple shells. So if you are going to float a lot, you have to be prepared to know what to do farther on down the line. What are we going to do when we're facing the second bet and the third bet? Do we put in the fourth bet? What does his sizing feel like? Does it feel like value? Does it feel like a bluff? There's really an art that goes into floating and picking up these pots. And if you're exceptionally good at it, it can be very profitable. And if you're not very good at it, then it's not going to be very profitable. Isolating the bottom left. Don't know that I really love c-betting this board, but the turn card is pretty great for us. I think we should go ahead and bet 54. He snapped us. We're shipping this river pretty much every time. I think that once we bet the flop and bet the turn probably gives him a little bit more equity for, you know, all his little pairs that pick up spade draws and stuff like that. So we are going to get called on the turn fairly often, but we're not going to get called on the river when we ship it that often. And there was 190 in the pot. He had 190 left, so it just has to work more than 50% of the time, and it's for sure going to work more than 50% of the time. I don't like my min open with the king deuce at the top left. I think I needed to go 3x to get more money in position versus this player who's folding to 86% of continuation bets. He's just folding way too often. We should be opening deuce 7 off, 3x on the button every single time. Jack 8 suited in the cutoff. I really think this is a 4-bet spot, but not when the 3-seat decides to go ahead and flat the 3-bet cold. Generally, when players flat the 3-bet cold, I feel like they have hands like ace queen, 10s, and 9s. Maybe 8s, but sometimes jacks. This queen 10 6 board is right up their alley. And once the three better, the pre-flop three better checks back the flop, it makes it really hard for him to bet the turn. As you can see, our 4-bet would have worked. Nut flush draw at the bottom right. Planning on firing all shells. I'm not sure if we go 2 nuts with the ace-king at the bottom left if we get called. After just bluffing that guy, I generally try not to go nuts against the same player back to back, especially a player who's not very good and prone to just making spite calls. The 3 seed at the top right is pretty clearly a fish. Flatting the 3-bet with the pocket fives is just going to be a losing play. Opening 3x on the button, those are 2 indicators, and that's really all you need. The $16 raise, I don't think I've really been played back at facing the $16 raise with a small blind limp, the 4x. I think it's more indicative of a weak hand that just wants to pick up the pot pre-flop. They're trying to turn a no equity type 8 tray off type hand into a positive hand. Pretty surprising that he did opt to peel. I would think that Queen Jack suited, Jack 10 suited. Excuse me. C-betting the 8. Ace Queen at the bottom right. It's the worst turn card for us. Despite his small bet, I feel like he's inducing a spaz. I think a lot of times when players make that bet, they're just trying to essentially feign weakness in order to get action. Well, they're either feigning weakness or they want to get to showdown cheaply. And either way, ace queen's not doing very well versus those hands. Also, something to consider if they're making it look like a weak hand, and if you think that they might be trying to get to showdown cheaper, then checking behind is way cheaper than throwing out a bet with the possibility that you might get raised. Not too exciting getting kings at the bottom right. These guys seem pretty nitty. Once the small blind folded, not much of a chance for us. At the top right, we have blockers for king jack and queen jack. Feel like he's probably going to be c-betting a little too often to spot that we can pick and pick up a lot more pots than you would think. This ace jack's going to be my last hand. Got about 25 seconds left in the video. I I hope you enjoyed watching me make some mistakes, but nothing that can't be corrected and can't be improved upon in the future. As always, thank you for listening. Take care.